Facebook's on, and away we go.
Good morning, Columbus. This is the Clean Guru. My name is Cody Warren, CEO of Two Men in a Vacuum. We're here today to talk about cleaning, as always.
That is our theme, the Clean Guru. If it was about anything but cleaning, we'd be in trouble.
You're right.
Cody, I have a question for you because I was in a meeting, my weekly meeting in my AmSpare group, and the subject of licensing and bonding came up, and the fact that people are hiring people without that documentation, let's say. And I know if I say that to you, your eyes are going to roll back in your head because you're going to say, why would somebody do that? But I have another instance, which is a national case. A guy on his first day working at this...
I saw
that.
that.
First day on the job, steals $17,000 worth of lottery tickets and all that other stuff. I know he wasn't licensed and bonded.
Right.
And we all look at that and go, oh, that's a terrible story, but it's a big corporation. When it's your house or when it's your place of business, it's a big deal, right?
That's funny you said that. I saw that as well. Did you see he stole his paperwork too?
Yeah. Well, maybe he stole the paperwork that said he was licensed and bonded. We don't know.
Jeez. Yeah, he's like, I guess they're like, what did he do? He thought they would never find him? I mean, I have no clue. That was...
Well, that's the fun. I mean, it's not funny, but it's like, that's an example. I was looking at if you had a friend that was a realtor or an interior decorator, you may think you know somebody, but when it comes down to it, you have to protect yourself. The other question was, somebody getting hurt on a work site. It was an insurance question that came up.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was brought up was if you're the homeowner and if I let you in my house and you're not licensed and bonded and you're not insured and you get hurt in there, you're just a 1099 guy for me, I have to, now you could sue me as the homeowner.
Absolutely. That's funny we're talking about this because it was one of my biggest sales points for a long time, especially on the residential side, because I would go in, say I came into your home and you and I were talking, and one of the biggest questions that comes up is, tell me why I should hire you. Just like any kind of any question when you're picking a service or whatever it be. And that was one of my biggest things that I presented to the potential client. As I said, well, a lot of people in this industry, a lot of clients always are worried about things getting stolen. I said, those things are replaceable. I said, let me present a scenario to you, which happens a lot, I think, in our industry. It's, service providers go into homes that are uninsured, and like you said, they get hurt. A lot of times in our industry, it'll be, my aunt's best friend Sally has cleaned our house for 16 years. She's great. She's wonderful, and that's totally fine.
She was at my christening, so I can't replace her.
Yeah, and we don't want to ever take the business away from Sally, but the reality of the situation is, and what I tell clients is, you don't have to worry about someone stealing, a watch. Those things are replaceable. Yeah, that it would be terrible and it'd be a pain and all those things. But the biggest thing is, if Sally's in your house and she's uninsured, non-bonded, and she falls down your basement steps, obviously on accident, and hurts herself pretty bad and has to go to the hospital and a claim is filed, it's typically going on your home on your home insurance policy. And a lot of times insurance companies, as you know, they'll look at that and they'll drop you because they can. As far as home insurance, they can drop you pretty easily. That's why I guess the state of Ohio has this special insurance that if you're uninsured by a quote-unquote insurance company, then you can go through the state of Ohio and become insured. And a lot of times, if the research that I've done in talking to people in the insurance industry is they can drop you for the littlest things. You could have a policy for a year and your car gets broken into. And as you know, that goes on a lot of times. If they take contents out of your car, that will go on your home insurance policy.
Right. If you get an umbrella coverage, yes. But that's the thing you have to ask for. I mean, I'm sure you guys have that for incidentals.
Yep, all that. So, but I guess where we're going with this is, we on the commercial side now, we've developed this packet that we automatically send clients. It has our, COI. We get a COI with them as a named insurer. Certificate of insurance in which they're the named beneficiary of our policy. We just send them this packet, and we still today, believe it or not, we have commercial clients. It's like they're asking us, do we need all this? And we're like, yeah, just keep it for your files. It's all our information.
Right.
It's our W-9, it's our certificate of insurance, it's our bonding stuff, and also we background check and drug test all our employees. We've talked about this. We're drug-free certified workplace, as well as we do background checks on all of our employees. But a lot of times, just through research, we never go into a commercial client and say, okay, tell us everything about your current provider. We'll ask those questions, those fact-finding questions, as far as, what are your pain points? What's the current company not doing that's really upsetting you? Those things, so that we know what the pain points are, so on and so forth. Kind of what you talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
It's called a CNA, a client needs analysis.
Yeah. So
that's just the name we give it. But again, you guys are trying to dig deep enough so you understand them on every level, so you can provide the service. If you don't know what the client really wants, whether it's an individual or a company, you really can't define what you're going to give them as a service.
Yep, absolutely. And based on that client needs analysis, we can kind of figure out if the current company that they're using is licensed and bonded. Just usually based on price point, we can kind of tell if it's a mom and pop type organization. But then we can really determine when when we say, what do you need from us? And they don't ask for any of that stuff, because obviously if they don't ask us, they haven't asked anybody. So, and I would never get on this station and name any names, but there's some big organizations out there right here in Columbus that we have as clients that would have never asked us for any certificate of insurance, which just boggles my mind, because you're going into these large businesses which have tons of equipment, tons of things worth money,
things with keys in it that move, that someone could walk over and horse around on.
Yep, all those things. But as you said in the beginning of the show, as important is if someone gets hurt in your place of business and they're not insured and bonded, it's going on you. And like you said, that opens up the doors for them, lawsuits and all those things, because you let an uninsured service provider in your place of business. And again, that's kind of the whole basis of this show, this Clean Guru, and really educating the client as the industry. Because why can't the cleaning industry get to a point of like the plumbing industry, where it just doesn't, every time now, hey, are you licensed and bonded plumber? Are you licensed and bonded electrician? You hardly ever hear of people not being asked that because of the permitting process, and they've just really regulated that.
But it wasn't always that way.
No, it definitely wasn't.
If you go back to watch, I can remember watching Schneider walk over, and he was working on the apartment for those 3 girls, and he didn't seem to be bonded. He was the handyman, right?
Right.
But I think we grew up thinking, just because somebody has a skill, it's kind of like the guy that works on your car. We all have that one guy that, like, my car's not running right, and they just kind of walk over and they have like a toolbox and has like 3 screwdrivers and 1 hammer. But we tend to think someone has that knowledge. At the end of the day, we are trusting them, but there needs to be something backing us up, the insurance-wise, or just some kind of proof that you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about when we're doing this conversation for people, this is not a sales pitch. This is to change the way that the industry is done, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're saying that people aren't asking those questions, I don't think they know to ask the question, because the person on the other side probably tries to skirt some of these issues, right? Not because they're being disingenuous. I just think it's hard if you don't want to spend the extra money, if you don't want to get the certification, the time, whatever, that you just want to get the job, you can get the job, but when something goes wrong, not only are you burning that client relationship, you're harming everybody else in the industry, right? So if you're going to set the pace for the industry, you as 2 Men in a Vacuum, you're trying to educate everybody else to do it better, right? And especially on the client side, set your expectation higher of what you're getting out of this service.
Yep. And I love the fact that you said it's not a sales pitch. And I always said, I had this vision when I started the company, because I talked to so many. What I did before I started a cleaning company, I knew I wanted to start one, so on and so forth. I went and interviewed other cleaning companies. I talked with people in the industry. I met cleaners who clean. And, the general consensus was, it's a really broken industry. There's not a lot of regulation. Joe Schmo down the street can grab a vacuum and start his cleaning company. I knew all those things. And that's what really opened my eyes of, regulate in this industry, because just like you said, in the long run, it's going to help everybody. If you go to Joe Schmo tomorrow and be like, hey, Joe, you can't clean anymore, you need to go out and get insurance and all those things, and he's going to be pretty ticked off, because that's going to eat up into his bottom line. But if we can educate him and the rest of the industry that in the long run, it's only going to help you, because then people are on the same playing field. Then the jobs are going to start being quoted what they should be. You're not going to have mom and pop shops out there that are uninsured, unbonded, which is creating a huge risk factor for the client. Obviously, they're underbidding that because they don't have the overhead. The client's paying less than what they should be. And then, like I said, in the long run, all that does is it creates a hurdle for the client, because if the client goes 5 years budgeting X for cleaning, and then Joe Schmo goes out of business because there's a huge lawsuit against him or whatever it is, and now that client who for the last 5 years has budgeted a certain amount, now that budget has to be increased because they can't find another Joe Schmo who's doing things under the table.
You set the bar for everybody else, and you set it so low that no one else can meet it and do a quality job.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it more on the ground level, the person to person. Like, I always look at every relationship, every client relationship you have it's kind of like a date, right? Mm-hmm. But if I set out the date on the expectation in the beginning, we're going to go to dinner. I'll take you anywhere you want to go as long as it's White Castle. Shout out to White Castle. But the point being, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be cheap. You still want to continue going out on a date, right? So you kind of keep doing that. But I've already set the principle that I'm not going to spend a lot because I don't value this a lot.
Yeah.
If I don't value something and I get it cheaper, I feel like I won. Conversely, on the other end, the person that's doing the work already took a job that they feel that they lost. Mm-hmm. So now I'm doing this as almost my punishment. It's my reminder that I took less money for my time and my effort. And it ruins an industry. And we've seen that where it's, if you want X, but this is what you're going to provide, and they're going to knock it down, then I got to shape something. And a lot of time it's my attitude. It's how I feel about the work that I'm doing or the employee I'm going to send you. Do I send my most elite employee to the job that gives me the least amount of return? No. I send the guy that I just met that doesn't have a car, but he gets dropped off at work. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's the kind of person I'm giving you, because there's resentment there.
Yep. Yeah, I just loved all those points you made, because you kind of summarized what's happened. What's happened in this industry is the industry, as well as other cleaning companies, as well as clients, have devalued the service. It's a service, and yes, I agree with the fact that cleaning can be taught to a certain extent, but we've been doing this a long time, and we've met people that just could never be taught cleaning. So there is some kind of there is some kind of skill set in it, and the fact that it's been so devalued over the years, probably since the beginning, it's really hurting. It's hurting us. It's hurting other clients. Just like you said, clients set that bar because they did find that Joe Schmo, and nothing against Joe Schmo. That's not what this show's about. That's not what my passion is about. That's not what my vision is about. My vision is to regulate the industry so that we're all on the same playing field, that people aren't devaluing the service, and the service is being, the right amount of money is being charged, because people are doing the right thing, providing the right quality, and not putting so much risk on the client.
Right.
Honestly.
Well, I think one of the things I like is, I think you said this off the air, you're not attacking an industry or people in it. You're trying to bring them up because you've always said you don't care if there's more competition in the industry as long as they're doing it the right way. Mm-hmm. Because there's enough work for everybody out there. What you're against is the person that's just doing this, maybe it's a hobby or something, or just trying to make extra money. If you don't do a task and do it to the utmost, you're ruining that for somebody else, because that's all somebody would know.
Yeah.
If I was going to hire you to come in my home and you do a poor job, my thing is now everybody does a poor job. The example would be like if you go and get pizza and it's bad at one place, you don't go to that one place anymore. Mm-hmm. You're spoiling it for an entire industry. So if one person, I almost said the name of a company, I didn't mean to trash them, I meant just for example, if they came into my house and they did a poor job over, twice a month over 6 months, I'm not going to call the next cleaning service. You know why? Because they're all this way.
Mm-hmm.
You're just trying to set the pace and say, let's just raise that a little bit higher, the standard, plus what that time is worth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not counting cans, as we say.
Yeah, exactly. And just like we said, and I'll say it again, I care, as we've said many times on the show, I really care about my clients, other clients, because I would hate for something like that to happen. I've heard horror stories. I mean, I don't know if you've seen this story in Columbus, but he's a good friend of mine, Eric Coral. He owned a very large company, Idea Buyer, out of Dublin, Ohio. And we're good friends, and we had a meeting probably 2 months ago. And I went in, he was a little off, I said, what's up? And he said, we were hacked last night. I said, are you serious? Long story short, it's been all over the news now. They were hacked, and he had to shut the company down. I mean, they've been around for 10 years, probably 50 million top line revenue company, very successful. He's been on, Inc. 5000, and but it's a intellectual property company, Idea Buyer, where they take different companies and help them take their idea to fruition. He's got tons of products in big box retail, but when they got hacked, they stole all this property. So it opened up to tons of lawsuits. So he had to close the company. But where I'm going with this is, he's a person that is, insured to the gills, had everything in place, but there was a little asterisk in the insurance policy that said he's protected for any data loss, all that, the high policies, but there was an exclusion that said not if it's maliciously. So, but it's a horror story. You have to.
But it is that little
it.
piece that you protect yourself, but you can't protect yourself enough, right?
Yeah.
And the same for somebody that owns a business. We were laughing about the person stealing his own paperwork and $17,000, but that was on day one. Mm-hmm. Somebody comes into your house or your building, falls on a wet floor or something and busts their head, and they might not be able to walk again or drive again.
Yeah.
And that happens every day.
Yep.
I always get nervous because I know you're out on construction sites and those new builds and all that. And you see a guy on a ladder and no one's behind him, and he's kind of like teetering one way because I don't want to make 2 trips up this ladder. And I was thinking, I'll bet that guy's a 1099 and he's not an employee.
Yeah.
And I always think, whose land is this that he's going to sue? Same thing for you guys. I mean, when you're walking into a place, that's got to be the number one thing, is to protect that client, but also to protect yourself.
Yep.
How hard is it? And I know every case will be different, but just for an example, if someone's listening, to be licensed and bonded, how long is that process?
I mean, it's a fairly simple process. The bonding, so we have insurance policies, umbrella insurance policies, other insurance policies, but then we also bond each one of our employees up to $25,000, which, again, they're pretty protected, but any circumstance, they have an additional bonding of $25,000. It's pretty simple. We have to submit, the biggest thing is we have to submit their background checks. Once we get the background check back and they've been cleared through us, then we submit their background. We just added extra the other day that was had something to do with like that data loss stuff,
right.
But it's something new. And our insurance agent's really good about, hey, this new thing, came up. Would you like to add it? And the one we just added, it's like $15 a year. It's just this extra.
But that's why I would love that you're explaining this, because I want people to understand it's a minimal amount of money and time to make sure it's done right.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people skipping that step. That's why this matters. You have to have somebody that's prepared at all costs versus the guy who you're going to just take a chance on.
Yep. And that's another thing that's kind of second level, but the industry could help by having these insurance, kind of like car insurance, where you can have a minimum, because I could have insurance. I could tell you today that I'm insured and bonded, so to speak, but my insurance might be $200 a month, and
right.
It covers me up to $10,000. I mean, we're up to, so banks is the highest in our industry that we've found. I can't imagine another. These new data centers.
The biggest one because of the data breach there. I mean, you're talking about. I know there's one bank right around the corner from where I live. It's a $1 billion bank.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be protected to the hilt.
Yep.
But somebody still cleans it.
Yeah, and they make the service provider be covered up to $4 million. So that's the highest that we found. Even hospitals have been like $2 million. So we just carry that. We're up to $4 million, and then we have all these umbrellas and whatnot. We pay about $3,000 a month in insurance and all those things. But we're protected, and I would rather, like you said, I'd rather be protected, protect our clients, and make sure that now like car insurance, there can be minimums. Joe Schmo doesn't have to go out and get a $3,000 a month insurance policy, but to be covered for XYZ. But then again, let the client decide how much they want to be insured.
Right.
If you have a 1,000 square foot office with 5 computers, you don't need to be insured. You don't need your service provider to be insured up to $2 million. The thing could burn down, and it's not going to be that much. But so on and so forth. So it'd be it's a lot of work, a lot of. I think getting these insurance companies involved too. I don't know why the insurance company just couldn't. They could regulate when a cleaning company calls them for insurance of mandatory minimums, but then somehow these companies have to send in yearly their insurance requirements. I don't know.
Well, I think we had talked about this. This might have been just on the phone. Is that the state should really be the ones that. I don't mean that everything has to be over-regulated.
Right. I totally agree.
But it's kind of the Wild West, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got the people that are at the top of the industry they're taking care of all this. It's the people in the middle and the very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the mistakes are getting made. So when you bring up, I always think of the General because of Shaq, and I know that jingle.
Mm-hmm.
But that's your state minimum coverage, your safe auto, right? If you have that state minimum, and that might be $200 a month, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
It could be really cheap, but it's still valuable because it's protecting both people.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why this industry, again, I actually took a picture of a wooden trailer. Somebody was dragging it. What do you think it said on the back? It was a cleaning company that said three women in a vacuum. And I thought it was a joke. It's not. But it was a wooden trailer. It looked like they were hauling a pole barn. But I thought, that's pretty funny. Like, somebody saw what you were doing and copied it. But I guarantee they're not licensed and bonded, right?
Right.
But again, anybody can open one of these, but to really operate it like a business that's going to change the way an industry is run, there's more to it.
Mm-hmm. And what? Even simpler too, which could clean it up a little, is I don't understand how. So you own a company and you have insurance. I can't believe that insurance company isn't making them produce the COI, the certificate of insurance, for any service provider that they use over the course of a year. Because really, the risk that is opened is to that insurance company.
Right.
But again, it's to the client, because that insurance company can, they can cancel you at any time.
Well, that's the thing, is there's really there's a minimal exposure,
Mm-hmm.
but they can still cancel you. So let's say they had to pay off on it one time. Then you're done.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have no problem, that's what I'm always looking for the worst part so we
Mhm.
can fix that.
Yep.
But again, if you have the minimal insurance, I just think when you're walking into somebody's place of business or their home, I personally would want to be protected from anything that could happen with you.
Yeah.
I would also think a business or a property owner would feel the same way, but I also have to admit, when I had somebody who was cleaning my house, I didn't do that.
Yeah. No,
Because I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
know until I talked to you that
Yeah.
that was a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily, I'm taking the client side where I didn't know that was a thing until I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, I would never I might even let the guy drop the mail in the mailbox until I know he's licensed and bonded now.
I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't agree more.
Mhm.
Because you nailed it. I remember getting work done on my house, my old house, when that first time home buyer, I had this guy over who did this, did that. I wanted electrical box ran outside. I found him on Craigslist, or
Right.
It was back then Craigslist. I just called somebody, found a cheap price, he came over and did it. Now I look back on that. I mean, say he runs an electrical box and your house burns down.
Right.
The first thing that insurance company, when they figure out, what the deal, that's a whole nother conversation. But that always boggles my mind how
But
they
we
can
should
go
have that
in.
conversation at some point because
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the guy that worked on my car.
Yeah,
I found him on Craigslist, but I could not get him to come back because he messed something up. I thought, oh, he's a gentleman. He'll
Yeah.
come back. And a year later, I'm like, I wonder if this prepaid phone still works, right?
yeah,
But you get what you pay for.
yeah,
He did install the engine. It didn't run, but he did say he'd put the engine in,
yeah.
right?
Cool. Well, great show. We'll have to pick up on this next time. This could be 8 shows.
Right.
But Columbus, thank you for tuning in. This is Clean Guru. My name is Cody Warren. 2 Men in a Vacuum. Give us a shout. 614-300-7970. Have a wonderful day.
That was fun. When you said the Craigslist, I was like,